Benjamin, Miss Sumiwo. Making many a to me young Kobe Swama men Susukra. So bet to me I am born in. Yet I am the patrimonia men and him. We've been out there, shall we trim on our own car? I had them, we anybody. My phone was and crowd to me the child.
Peace, health, and longevity to those who are listening. My name is Wanamia, and I'm from the project Afrakan Health. This is our first lesson on the topic, the theme, nutrition and health. And the title of this lesson is called The Importance of Nutrition. Or you can say the science of nutrition, because I'm gonna say some scientific things, but I will explain it. So, let us start our lesson by the importance of nutrition. We know that nutrition is one of the most important elements that a human or any organism needs in order to survive. In order for the body to function at its optimum and balanced level, it needs nutrients to fuel the organs. You can compare a nutrient like a gasoline in a car. If there is gasoline in the car, you'll be able to drive from point A to point B. If you have nutrition in your body, you'll be able to move or to even talk and to even walk, to even think, to even, The same way, if we don't have nutrients, our body won't be able to perform the necessary actions that it needs. When we look into the smaller world, which is the cellular world, they need nutrition in order to execute important tasks. A lack of nutrition can lead to cell damage and eventually to death. In this specific episode, we're going to talk about the importance of nutrition, what nutrition actually is, what the minor and major nutrients are, what these do for our body, and why we need these specific nutrients. But before we start our lesson, we must start with the phenomena that urges us to eat. Our body tells us when we should eat and when we should not eat. So how does this really work? When you have that feeling of hunger, which I have right now a little, I feel a little bit hungry. What is that thing that makes me feel hungry? We will go into the science of hunger and thirst. So, what is hunger and thirst? The senses of hunger and thirst are both controlled by the centers in the hypothalamus of the brain. You might say, what is hypothalamus? The hypothalamus is actually a specific location that is seated in the middle of your brain that controls most of everything our body does. Body temperature, when we're hungry, when we should eat, when we should sleep, when we should wake up. And this is done by the control of the hypothalamus. So, the thirst is triggered by dehydration, and hunger is triggered by a low glucose blood sugar level concentration. Long-term satisfaction of thirst and hunger will result when the water and the glucose level content of the blood is returned to normal. So the hypothalamus thus regulates eating and drinking patterns, like I said before. So you know what happens when you feel that hunger, like that sound that you hear when you are hungry. Your hypothalamus is sending signals to your body telling you your blood glucose level is low. So you must fill that up by eating, so you can raise that blood glucose level up, so that hunger feeling goes away. When you're thirsty, your hypothalamus is telling you you're dehydrated. You need to drink more. Let us go into the definition of nutrition. So, you might ask yourself, but what is nutrition? According to the dictionary, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, if you Google it, it is the act or the process of nourishing or being nourished. Another definition from Medical News Today is nutrition is the supply of materials, which is food, that is required by an organism in order to stay alive. Now that we know what nutrition is, which is the act or process of being nourished, let us go into the different types of nutrients. We know what nutrition is, the active process of being nourished. That means then that a nutrient is a component of nourishment. There are 7 types of nutrients that the organism requires in order to stay alive. It is carbohydrates, fats, proteins, water, fiber, minerals, and vitamins. These 7 types of nutrients can be split into 2 groups. Like I stated in the introduction, the major nutrients and the minor nutrients, or basically the macronutrients or the micronutrients. So, The first group is called the macronutrients, which is carbohydrates, proteins, fats, water, and fiber. And these are called micronutrients, and they're needed in large quantities. So daily you need to consume a lot of these macronutrients in order for your body to stay alive. The second group is called the micronutrients, which is the vitamins and the minerals. We also need these micronutrients, but in smaller quantities. So we have to consume little of it in order to stay alive. We shouldn't be consuming too much because that can toxify the body. Let us go into the first group called macronutrients. We now know that it consists of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, water, and fiber, remember? So we need large quantities of it. These macronutrients can be split into two other groups. We're going to do a lot of splitting, so remember, we have the macronutrients, which can be split into two other groups: the energy macronutrients and the non-energy macronutrients. The energy macronutrients, they provide our body with energy, and it is measured in kilocalories or joules. So you know, as women, for those who want to lose weight, when we take something like maybe a bag of chips or cookies or anything, we try not to consume too much calories. So we look at a package and it says it has so and so kilocalories. That specific food that you are consuming is an energy macronutrient. And you know, when you go to the gym and you're on that treadmill and you see how many calories you have burned, that is basically the food that you have eaten that contained that energy macronutrient. Is that what you have burned? You know, so that is basically what it is. And if you want to know how much 1 kilocalorie is in joules, you basically have to multiply that by 4,185.8 joules. So 1 kilocalorie equals 4,185.8 joules. So that's just a quick math. So we have the energy macronutrients, right? Like I said before, it is carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And let's start with the first group called the carbohydrates. The carbohydrates, they can be, it consists of the simple carbohydrates, which are the monosaccharides and the disaccharides. And they have the complex carbohydrates, aka starch, which are called polysaccharides. And the monosaccharides, as you will see in the figure, consist of simple sugars: glucose, fructose, and galactose. The disaccharides are composed of 3 of these monosaccharides. So we have maltose, which is a disaccharide. It composes of 2 molecules of glucose, as you will see in the figure. We have sucrose, which is composed of a molecule of glucose linked to fructose. Then you have lactose, which is composed of glucose linked to galactose. Well, you might say, is this really important? Yes, our body needs these specific sugars in order for us to move. And it's also a very good thing to know that if you look at the ingredients at the back of any package, you mostly see fructose, glucose, maltose, galactose, lactose. And you're like, but what is it actually? These are actually simple sugars that are basically, these are other forms of sugars or smaller components of carbohydrates. That's what it is. So you have all these mono and disaccharides that exist in our diet, with the exception of galactose, which is only present as part of lactose. So one of the primary functions of carbohydrates is to provide your body with energy. Most of the carbohydrates in the foods you eat are digested and broken down into glucose before entering the bloodstream. So when you eat that bread, or when you eat that plantain, or when you eat that fufu, or when you eat rice, those foods consist of many carbohydrates. It is broken down into smaller pieces, and that smaller pieces is being absorbed into your blood, glucose basically. So that glucose is taken up into your body cells, and it is used to produce a certain fuel called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. That is basically the currency or the money every cell needs in order to function. And this is done through a complex series called cellular respiration. So your cells use this money, or basically the ATP, to perform certain metabolic tasks. So the fact that I can move my hand or even talk or even think This is done by glucose. That glucose is then being transformed into that currency called adenosine triphosphate. And that adenosine triphosphate, which is the ATP, is then being used for many functions of the body. So most cells in the body, they can produce ATP from several sources. Like I said, the carbohydrates, including carbohydrates and fats. But if you're consuming a diet with a mix of these nutrients, most of your body cells will prefer to use the energy sources from carbohydrates. Let us go into proteins. Proteins is one of the most important substances in your body. If you look at your body, mostly everything is made out of protein. My skin, my eyes, my hair, everything is made out of protein. Enzymes, hormones, your DNA. It helps to repair and maintain the body's tissues. Tissue is not the handkerchief that we have. Tissue is another word for a group of cells functioning as a unit. So basically you have a group of heart cells called heart tissues, or a group of brain cells called brain tissue. So that's basically what tissues is. So protein is a very large nutrient, a micronutrient, that is made out of smaller amounts called amino acids. There are 20 amino acids, but your body can actually only make 9 of them. The other 11 are called essential amino acids. And these essential amino acids, your body cannot make. It needs it by consuming foods. So you have foods that contain these amino acids, like meat, fish, dairy, eggs. And these are like high quality proteins, and they're called whole proteins or complete proteins. Then you also have other sources of proteins, which are nuts, seeds, beans. So for people who say, oh, but if I don't eat meat, I won't have enough protein. Meat products, animal products are not the only products that contain proteins. Nuts, seeds, beans, rice, all these other nutrition also contain proteins. So instead of you eating meat, you can consume nuts, seeds, rice, beans, in order to also have these nutrients in your body. Let us go into fats. You may wonder that, isn't fat really, it's not good for me, especially for us women or anyone, man, who wants to lose weight. Oh, I shouldn't eat too much fat. Well, that's not necessarily true. Your body needs fat. It's a major source of energy. As I stated before, remember that currency that your body needed in order to, that fuel called ATP, that it gets from carbohydrates, but it also gets it from fats. So your fat, the fats that you intake, it helps you absorb some of the vitamins and the nutrients. So that is one advantage of you consuming fats. Another is this: fat is needed to build cell membranes. A cell membrane is basically the outer layer of a cell. So you have this cell and there's an outer layer, and that outer layer is called a cell membrane. What fats does is that it builds up this outer layer of a cell membrane, which is very important. It's also good for your nervous system as it builds the sheets surrounding the nervous system. It is essential for blood clotting, muscle movement, and inflammation. So for long-term health, some fats are better than others. So yes, I agree with you. If you want to lose weight or you want to be healthy, there's not a certain fat, there are certain fats that you should not consume, right? You have good fats, you have bad fats. The good fats include the unsaturated fat, which is the mono and the polyunsaturated fat. Then you have the bad fats, which are the saturated fat and the trans fat. The worst one is the trans fat, but the saturated one is in the middle. All fats have a similar chemical structure, as you will see in the figure. It is basically a long chain of carbon atoms bonded to hydrogen atoms. And what makes one fat different from the other is its length and the shape of the carbon chain, and the number of hydrogen atoms that is connected to the carbon atoms. So you have slightly differences in these fat molecules. This is the same in the whole body. You have different brain cells. For instance, you have the dendrite and you have the neuron. You have the glial cell and you have another oligodendrocyte. All of these are different brain cells, but they have a similar structure, but they're yet different. And that means that if there's a different structure, it also has a different function. But yet they're all the same brain cells, basically. So let us go deeper into the saturated fat. You have the saturated fat. They are solid at room temperature. And they are sometimes called solid fat. They're totally saturated, meaning that each molecule of fat is covered in hydrogen atoms. Some saturated fat increase health risk if a person consumes too much over a long period of time. Remember what I told you about the bad fat? If you consume too much of the bad fat, it will give you certain diseases that you won't like cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, stroke, high cholesterol levels. These fats, these high levels of saturated fat can be found in meat products, the skin of poultry, dairy products, many processed foods like cakes, biscuits, pastry, chips, some coconut oil, palm oil, and cocoa butter. So basically any junk food that you see that is being fried into oil, those foods contain saturated fat, and you consuming too much of these things will increase certain diseases. So what you can do in order to consume less of these fats, because I said before we need fats, what you can do to replace it is by eating nuts, seeds, avocado, beans, and other vegetables that contain fat. Now that we have spoken about the saturated fat, let us go into the unsaturated fat, which are the good fats. So you have the unsaturated fat, which include the monounsaturated fat and the polyunsaturated fat. And these are liquid at room temperature. The unsaturated fat are the good fats, and they're healthier than the saturated fat, which are the bad fats. And they're mostly derived from plant oils and are classed as good fats, like I said. And these are found in vegetables, olives, nuts, seeds. So you have like avocado, very fatty vegetables. You have olives, nuts, seeds. So these oils contain, these vegetables and these nuts contain unsaturated fats. So there are two types of unsaturated fat. You have the monounsaturated fat. This type of fat can help improve your cholesterol level and lower your risk of cardiovascular disease. It also helps you control your insulin level and your blood sugar levels. And foods that contain monounsaturated fats are olive oil, peanut oil, canola oil, and safflower oil. You will see it in the figure, the many types of the monounsaturated fats. Then you have the second group, which is the polyunsaturated fat. Your body needs polyunsaturated fat in order to function. And this type of fat helps with the muscle movement and with the blood clotting. Remember from the very start, I was talking about the benefits of fats, and that it is good for the nervous system, for the blood clotting, for the muscle movement. That is what the polyunsaturated fat does. So since your body doesn't make it, you have to get it through your diet, just like the essential amino acids. So the polyunsaturated fat can be split into two groups. You have the omega-3 fatty acids and the omega-6 fatty acids. The omega-3 fatty acids is beneficial to the heart. The omega-3 fatty acids can be found in many fish products like tuna and mackerel and sardines, ground flaxseed and flaxseed oil, canola oil, walnuts, sunflower seeds, and chia seeds. The omega-6 fatty acids, they help you protect against cardiovascular disease. Yet you should be careful not to consume too much of this particular fatty acid, as it can be very risky and it can really impact your health negatively if you don't take care. This omega-6 can be found in corn oil, walnuts, sunflower oil, soybean oil, and safflower oil. Well, we have now come to the end of the first part of the first lesson, the importance of nutrition. I've spoken about the carbohydrates, the fats, the proteins, the definition of nutrition, the science of hunger and thirst. I'm thankful that you have given me your attention, and I hope it was interesting for you. Stay tuned for the second part of this lesson of the importance of nutrition, where I'll be talking about water, fiber, vitamins, and minerals, and what it does for our body and the importance of that. So stay tuned, and I'll see you the next time. Take care of yourself. Peace, health, and longevity to you all. My name is Onamia from Afrakan Health. Peace unto you. For more health-related topics, please visit our website on www.afrakanhealth.ga. We're also on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, Afrakan Health. And we are on Salto TV every Saturday at 10 p.m. Central European Time. I send you peace, health, and longevity, and take care of yourself and stay healthy. Thank you.